Hey everyone, it's Strange Michael. I hope you're doing well today. Since the other day when I did my Halloween H2O review for this Halloween movie series of reviews, I finally got the box set I talked about in the mail, maybe a couple hours after I filmed that video. Halloween 4K Collection 1995 to 2002. This is the only way to get really the newest 4K scan of Halloween Curse of Michael Myers, which is number 6, theatrical and producer's cut. Some cool bonus features, of course. There's no documentary on that one, which shocked the hell out of me. There's not one for Resurrection either. There's just interviews about both movies. But H2O has one. It's an older documentary from 2013. Anyway, it has Curse of Michael Myers, H2O, and Resurrection in this box set. And since I've already talked about the first two films in the set, here is Halloween Resurrection. When it comes to all of these covers at this current moment where we don't have Rob Zombie 1 and 2, and we don't have Halloween and Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends in their own release with this Michael Myers type cover, this could very well be the worst, because it looks like Michael's about to go hug you. Anyway, Halloween Resurrection, I am going to have some very controversial things to say about this movie. Let me say this up front. It's a 2002 film. It's about an hour and, hour and 30 minutes or so. It's really an hour and 25, if you want to be honest. It has a cast a lot of people don't like. I'll get to that in a moment. But 4 years after Halloween H2O. Now, mind you, I think currently on this watch of these movies, H2O really impressed me by how much I liked it this time around. I think it's really surprisingly better than I remember it being a lot of the time. I don't typically rewatch that one all the time, and I've always thought relatively positively about that film. But it seems like I'm kind of wish-washy sometimes on that movie. However, Halloween Resurrection is usually the one people, for whatever reason, with Halloween 5 being out there, with Rob Zombie's first remake being out there, for whatever reason, people look at this movie and think it's the worst of the franchise. Now, for me, I understand it's a very weak entry, but I gotta be honest with you. Being born in 1994, there were not many Halloween films that I really paid that much attention to, because most of the time if I caught a Halloween film, it was either the original on VHS, like I said in my review for that first movie, I was either watching on VHS with my mom, the old Blockbuster releases, or I would be watching films that would pop up on AMC when they would do the Horror Fest, whatever, during October. Halloween Resurrection seemed to play constantly. I don't care if it was on the Sci-Fi Channel, the AMC channel. I'm telling you, I have probably seen this movie as many times as I've seen the original film, and not really by choice, just because I was a kid, there was nothing on late at night. If it wasn't Friday nights, Cartoon Network didn't have anything playing. It was typically that kind of thing, and me being a horror fan growing up, and mainly a slasher fan of the big three, this movie always appealed to me as a kid. When you're a kid and you're watching something, you don't have the internet at that time in your life. When I was a kid, at least, we didn't have a computer or anything yet. Some scumbag out on the street in front of my house has his bass up as loud as he possibly can. I just thought I would let you guys know that, so we can all shoot him a finger. Anyway, so I didn't know people hated this movie. I didn't know people hated a lot of these movies, like this and some of the Friday the 13th films and whatever. I went into these movies completely fresh, and I'll tell you, Resurrection is a rough movie. As I said, it's a weak movie in the Halloween franchise. It doesn't even almost resemble or feel like the Halloween films, or even close to the one that came right before it, H2O. It doesn't resemble many of these at all. It has almost no atmosphere at all to it. Really, maybe 2% of it has a little bit of atmosphere that I like. It ruins the ending of Halloween H2O. I don't want to spoil that in case you guys haven't seen the film, but it does ruin that ending of that great flick that I really liked this time around in this marathon. Even loved, I would say. It gets so many things wrong. So many things wrong. And starting off ending, or messing with H2O's ending that was already shot when H2O was being filmed to try to make a hook for this movie. It's rough. I would even go as far to call it bad. I do not think it's the worst of the franchise. When it comes to ranking the films, you will not see this at the bottom of my list. There are better-made movies in the franchise that I think are poorer watches than this because of my personal taste, because of my nostalgia towards this movie a little bit. Just because I like some aspects of it does not mean I really like the movie. I just have fond memories of it. You don't understand. Seriously, I mean this. If you were a kid like myself who watched a lot of the AMC channel and the Sci-Fi channel back when they were playing things like Gremlins and whatever on TV, you don't understand how many times I've seen this movie. For real. for real. I've seen the first film so many times, and I love a lot of the sequels more than I like this movie. But I've seen this a billion times. You really don't get it. So anyway, 2002 comes around, and we've kind of started the trend now of putting celebrities, like, not actors, celebrities in roles. For example, this one has Busta Rhymes and Tyra Banks. I love both of them, but, well, as you know, it didn't turn out well. So, what is Halloween Resurrection, one of the worst titled films in the franchise, about? Well, you have Busta Rhymes and Tyra Banks who run a thing called Dangertainment, and this is basically back before things like Ghost Hunters and Ghost Adventures was really a popular, prominent thing in society. And they basically are going to go into the Michael Myers house in their town, Haddonfield or whatever, and they're going to film with some people they pick randomly for their contest, and they're going to put a webcam on the side of their head and make them walk around and, investigate the Michael Myers house for the first time ever, aside from when the cops did it, to see if they can find out what caused Michael to do the things he's done over the years and become a mass murderer, one of the most well-known in all of the country's history. And it's not everything they thought it would be. So we have basically our main three kids, not kids, they're all adults, they're all like in college and whatever. We have Sarah, we have another fellow who I know him from a lot of things. He's really solid here. At least he tries, because the script does not have almost anything going for it at all. And then there's a blonde named Katie Sackhoff, who plays, I think, Bo-Katan in Mandalorian. I don't know. I don't watch Mandalorian. Star Wars is dead. Let it go. Bo-Katan or whatever is in this. She's also in some Stargate, I guess. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of Katie Sackhoff. I never really have been. It's not her fault. I don't know. I'm not a big sci-fi guy a lot of the time. I like sci-fi, but it has to be good and it has to be non-generic, which a lot of sci-fi falls into that. Not the big series of stuff, but a lot of it does. Let me also throw this out. Rick Rosenthal directed this. Rick Rosenthal, who did Halloween 2, the original. It's really a solid flick. Rick Rosenthal did this. He had been doing TV for like 10 years before this came out, and it shows. It shows. I don't think it's a budget restraint issue with him. I don't think there's anything like that that's the problem here. I think it's a great classic example that I will always use of you can't make movies like you did in the 80s or the 70s or anything like that and have those directors make movies now that still hold up. Now, if it's something like Scorsese, that's one thing. But people who are making horror films in the 80s, in the 70s, whatever, they can't pull those kinds of movies off now, or at least in 2002. 20 years ago this movie came out. Can you believe that? 20 years ago. Their methodology, their formula, their skill, it doesn't transfer well. And I think there's a lot of other people missing in the mix, so I don't think Halloween 2 being so successful is Rick Rosenthal's baby. I don't really think it's entirely him that caused that. And I don't think this is an example like Halloween Curse of Michael Myers, or particularly Halloween 5, where it feels like everybody's trying to do something stupid. Especially the score person of the movie. So for me, all these kids... They're going to go into the Michael Myers house to investigate. They have the webcams on the side of the head. There's also a thing that's on the 4K thing here called the webcam special. It's kind of cool how they took like fake webcam footage from this movie and they basically made like a 45-minute special out of it. It was kind of neat. It's kind of like watching Halloween Resurrection as a found footage movie. It's kind of nice if you guys haven't seen that. And throughout the film, of course, you kind of have moments of this found footage thing. It's totally not taken advantage of at all. It's so misused. It's such a stupid gimmick for this movie. I can't stand it. There's also another little subplot thing. There's a guy who calls himself Deckard Online, and he is friends with the girl named Sarah. Now, he is at a Halloween party with his best friend, and they dressed up as Sam Jackson and John Travolta from Pulp Fiction. I thought that was hilarious. The one guy has like an afro and everything. It's great. These two guys are at this Halloween party, and one of them sneaks into the office, the one that calls himself Deckard Online, who's friends with Sarah, the main girl that's visiting this Michael Myers house after they won the contest. And he's basically looking at the webcams and security cams and stuff in the Myers home that were installed to try to help her when things get a little crazy, because Michael Myers shows up at his old house and starts going after everybody after the horrible, horrible prologue to this movie that ruined the ending of Halloween H2O. Now, a lot of this film was supposed to be kind of like a haunted house thriller type of thing, and if it was done fully as a found footage movie, I would have loved that. I think I would have had a great time with it. Not that the acting is good, because it's not. Not that the casting is great, because it's not. The only casting that I genuinely like is the guy playing Michael Myers. Now, I don't blame him for how weird this Michael Myers performance is, how off-character it is, how it feels not like what Michael would do in certain situations, especially when he encounters Busta Rhymes at certain moments in the film, especially towards the finale. I don't blame that guy. I blame Rick Rosenthal. I blame the script. I blame a lot of things that are not that actor's fault. I think Brad Dourif, I think is his name. I think he was a solid Michael. I think the mask looks good, in my opinion. I don't think it's great. It's not like the one from Curse of Michael Myers for me. It's not the original with Nick Castle. Myers doesn't look amazing, but he looks good, in my opinion. I think we could have had a really solid Michael for this movie if we had had the right director, if we had had the right people involved for this. I think it's also cool that when it comes to set design stuff, if you really care about this, they actually built this house. Like, not the whole thing in one go. They had to build the top floor in another area, but they built the whole house for this movie. A lot of the budget went into the set design of this film, and it's sad that we got the movie we got because of how much effort was put into this. It's a shame, in my opinion, you know? Now, again, the writing is not strong. There's a lot of what I call wannabe jokes. Now, the MCU has a problem with this, of undercutting scenes of tension and sadness and depression with jokes that aren't funny. I haven't seen Thor: Love and Thunder, but I've heard that a lot about that movie. This movie's guilty of that too, but this film also has wannabe jokes that are, we are trying our best to connect to the teenagers in the most company-defined way. It's awful. The jokes and the writing and stuff are not good. It's a Halloween film. It doesn't have to be funny. Just have some atmosphere. And, yeah. This film doesn't have any atmosphere, really. Like I said, it's mostly just, Michael, go here, do that. Michael, go here, kill. You know, it's really the whole film. And if you're here for Michael, you're going to get quite a bit of that. And I think you won't be dissatisfied. That might be why, when I was a kid, I didn't think this film was bad. I enjoyed it back in the day because there's so much Michael in here, but it also has the curse of Halloween H2O of having Michael's eyes available all the time like this, and they're massive because of the eye holes. So it's a very wish-washy film. There is more bad here than there is good, and it's hard for me to sit here and tell you that I don't like the film when I have moments of it that I genuinely laughed out loud because of how bad it was, and it's not trying to be a tongue-in-cheek type of film. The film, in my opinion, thinks it's clever, and it's not. Again, I blame Rick Rosenthal. The look of the movie looks very cheap. Imagine what happened with Halloween Curse of Michael Myers. If you add the webcam stuff to that, it looks like that kind of cheap. Maybe not as cheap as Curse of Michael Myers or Halloween 5 look, but it still, for 2002 and being a theatrical release, it looks cheap. And we were supposed to get another one after this called Halloween Retribution. You can read the script online. I started reading it a while back, and I really liked what it was doing. I really liked the callbacks. I really liked all of that stuff. And I think Retribution would have been a good flick that would have really improved on a lot of problems in this movie, assuming that script would have been the one that was made. I don't know if it was Malik Akkad or Mustafa Akkad that were still involved when that was possibly going to be made, before Rob Zombie was the person for the remake. But this being the last of, like, the original 8 movies, it's sad. It's sad. I remember my grandfather going to a movie store one time. He was going to rent H2O for me. Many years ago. I was very young. And when he was going to rent it, he was trying to figure out which was the newest one. Was it Resurrection or was it H2O? And the girl behind the counter had to explain it to him. I remember him specifically telling her that Resurrection was the one that killed the franchise. This is before Rob Zombie's movie came out. That's how I know this. So many years ago. This had to have been like 2006 or so, when I knew that the remake was coming. And I remember that lady telling my grandfather that it was like, that was the film that killed the series. And I was like, I loved Resurrection at the time. So it was a weird time in my life. Anyway, there's not really any CGI in the film. The practical effects are kind of goofy. There's some stuff that's supposed to be goofy because of the script in a I don't know if I'd say a good way, but in a for sure way, like characters have revelations based on bad practical effects and whatever. It is what it is. The film itself has a lot to say about reality TV, and it tries to be clever about that. It tries to use Busta Rhymes to be clever about that. And Busta Rhymes can act, by the way. I'm going to stand by that as long as I live. I've seen Narc with Jason Patric and Ray Liotta. If you haven't seen Narc, you've missed out on an amazing thriller. One of the best thrillers I've ever seen. Busta Rhymes is in that for a very small 10-minute, 15-minute portion. And he can act. He does very well there. So it ain't him that's the problem here. It's the script. It's the stuff that he wanted to put into the film that everybody else just let him do, like the kung fu stuff, because he's a kung fu martial arts fan. Everything you could possibly have an issue with in this film, it's probably because of Rick Rosenthal and Busta Rhymes together. But when you have some restraint on Busta Rhymes, he can act. He really can. I'm telling you, go see Narc. The music in the film, it's okay. I don't really have any problems with it. I think it's better than some renditions of this franchise's music. If you like the original theme, that's pretty much what they use with some modifications. It makes it a poorer version, but it's still the same genuine piano version of that old movie. So, you know, it's not bad. When it comes to Halloween Resurrection, it's sloppy. It's got some bad ideas, some real bad ideas. But it's not a complete loss. It's just a little bit of a mess that a lot of people hate for good reason. For good reason, frankly. It's not a good movie. It is a bad movie. But there's some kind of, in my personal opinion, even now, after watching it for like the 20 billionth time yesterday, I think that there's still something I like about this film. There's still something watchable about this movie, in my personal opinion. I get why people hate it, but I don't think it's as bad as people make it out to be. I really don't. Anyway, have you seen Halloween Resurrection? What do you think about it? Again, Michael Myers here looks like he's about to do a T-pose from a video game. I forgot that video game. Is it Fortnite? I don't think it's Fortnite. Anyway, I'm not a video game guy when it comes to something like Fortnite or something. I play like, you know, like old Call of Duty stuff and Grand Theft Auto. Anyway, he looks like he's going to T-pose. If I had to rate Halloween Resurrection on a 5-star basis, I would give it like a 3 out of 5 stars. That's just me. It's just me. I don't hate it. I find it fairly watchable. And for younger viewers out there who might be watching this movie for the first time, what do you think about it? Do you hate it as much as the horror community typically does? Because it would surprise me if people do. But with the internet being in people's brain all the time, I don't know, maybe they will. Anyway, Halloween Resurrection gets a 3 out of 5 stars for me. It might seem a little high for some people, but I don't hate this movie. I don't, it's bad, it's rough, but it's not unwatchable. Now, the next film I'm about to talk about, we'll see what I have to say about that when I get there. Anyway, 3 out of 5 stars. Let me know your thoughts and comments down in the comment section down below. Thank you guys for watching. God bless you. Happy Halloween, and goodbye.